Emma didn't plan the trip. She didn't pack much. Just a few clothes, her favorite book, and a notebook with a broken spine. She needed to leave. Not for fun, not for adventure, but for air. The kind of air you can only find far away from everything and everyone. Her city felt too loud, too fast. People talked, but nobody listened. Every day felt the same, and every smile felt tired. So that morning, she walked to the train station without telling anyone. She bought a ticket to a town she had never heard of. It had a short name and a slow train. That felt right. She found a seat by the window, put her bag on her lap, and closed her eyes. A new place, a new chance, she whispered. As the train moved, the city disappeared. Tall buildings turned into small houses. Small houses turned into trees. The air seemed softer now. Time seemed slower. She opened her eyes. A boy and his grandmother sat across from her. The boy held a red balloon. He looked at Emma and smiled. She smiled back. No words were needed. The moment was quiet and kind. She looked out the window again. The sky was wide and light blue. Birds flew over yellow fields. A dog ran along a dirt road. Everything felt like a dream, but it was real. I needed space, so I left. Silence is sometimes louder than words. Emma didn't know what she would find in that town. She didn't even know its name. But for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel lost. She just felt light. The train stopped with a soft sound. Emma looked outside. There was no sign, no station name. Just a small bench, one street lamp, and a dirt road leading into trees. She stepped off the train. The air smelled like earth and wood. A soft wind touched her face. It felt clean and new. There were no taxis, no crowds. Just quiet. She walked down the path. The trees slowly opened, and a little town appeared. There were houses with wooden roofs, small shops, and a narrow river running through the middle. It looked like something from a postcard, old, simple, beautiful. Emma saw a sign on a small building. It said, "Welcome," but no town name. She smiled. Some places speak without words, she thought. It felt like time stopped here. A small bell rang as she pushed open the door of a guest house. It was warm inside. The walls were filled with photos, old clocks, and dried flowers. A kind-looking old woman stood behind the counter. She wore a blue dress and had soft white hair tied back with a ribbon. "Hello, dear," the woman said. "Looking for a room?" "Yes, please," Emma said, "just for a few days." "Take your time," the woman smiled. "Time moves slowly here." Emma took the key and went upstairs. Her room was simple, one bed, a small desk, and a window with a view of the river. She opened the window. The wind carried sounds, birds, water, leaves in the trees. She didn't know anyone here, no one knew her. But for the first time, that felt like a good thing. "Kind eyes, hidden stories," she wrote in her notebook. "Maybe I'm not lost. Maybe I'm just starting over." That night she fell asleep early. No traffic, no phone, no noise. Just the soft sound of the river, and the feeling that something quiet but important was waiting for her in this town. The next morning, Emma walked through the town. The streets were still and calm. Shops were just opening. A cat sat on a windowsill, watching the world. She passed a small yellow building with a red roof. It looked old but clean. Above the door, a faded sign said, "Post Office." In front of the post office sat a boy. He looked about 8 years old. He had a green cap and dusty shoes. His hands held a small empty envelope. Emma slowed down. The boy looked up at her. "Hi," she said gently. "Hi," he replied. She smiled. "Waiting for someone?" "I'm waiting for a letter," he said. He looked serious, hopeful. Emma sat beside him. "From who?" she asked. "From my mum," he said. "She said she would write." Emma paused. "Has she written before?" The boy shook his head. "Not yet, but maybe today." Emma looked at the post office door. It was closed. No one was inside. He waits, not for a letter, but for love, she thought. Hope is a small light that never dies. "What's your name?" Emma asked. "Leo," he said. "And you?" "Emma, I'm just visiting." He nodded. "I like visitors." They sat together for a while. The street was quiet. Only the sound of wind in the trees and a bird singing nearby. "Do you come here every day?" Emma asked. Leo nodded. "Yes, I want to be here if the letter comes." Emma didn't know what to say, so she just sat with him. Sometimes silence says the most. When the post office finally opened, Leo jumped up. He ran inside, then came back slowly, empty-handed. "Not today," he said softly. Emma placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe tomorrow," she said. Leo smiled just a little. "Sometimes strangers become family," Emma wrote in her notebook that night. "Sometimes we don't need answers. We just need someone to sit with us." She didn't know Leo's story, but something in her heart told her she would see him again tomorrow. That evening, the sky turned dark. Clouds covered the moon. Emma sat by the window, watching the wind move through the trees. Then the rain came. Not a soft rain, but hard, loud drops that hit the roof and the ground like drums. She closed the window and made tea. The town felt smaller in the rain, closer, sadder. Suddenly there was a knock on her door. She opened it and saw Leo, wet, shivering, holding something in his hand. "Leo!" she cried. "You're soaked! Come in!" He walked in slowly. His eyes were red. "I found something," he said, holding out a wet piece of paper. Emma took it carefully. It was a letter. The ink had run in the rain, but she could still read the first line. "To my little lion, Leo." Emma looked at him. "Is this from your mum?" Leo nodded. "I found it at home. It was under the couch. She never sent it." His voice shook. "She wrote it, but she never mailed it. Maybe she forgot. Or maybe she left before she could." Emma's heart broke a little. The letter was never lost. Just hidden, she thought. And so was his love. Leo sat on the floor, hugging his knees. "She left last year, said she had to go. I waited. I still wait." Emma sat beside him. "Leo, I'm sorry." He didn't answer, but he leaned against her. They stayed like that for a long time. No more words, just rain, and two people sharing a quiet pain. The next morning the rain had stopped. The town smelled fresh, like new leaves and wet stone. Emma walked Leo home. His grandmother stood at the door, waiting. "She worries about me," Leo said softly. Emma smiled. "She loves you, a lot." He nodded. "Sometimes love is quiet, but it stays," she told him. Before he walked in, Leo turned. "Will you stay a little longer?" Emma looked at the sky, then at him. "Yes," she said. "I think I will." Days passed. The sun returned. The river sparkled again. The town looked brighter, but something inside Emma had changed. She no longer felt like a visitor. She knew the sound of the bakery bell in the morning. She knew where the cats liked to sleep in the sun, and she knew that Leo waited on the same bench every afternoon. But now he was not waiting for a letter. He was waiting for her. Emma started bringing books. Sometimes they read together. Sometimes they just talked. One afternoon, Emma brought paper and pens. She placed them on the bench. "Let's write letters," she said. Leo looked surprised. "To who?" "To no one," Emma smiled. "Or maybe to ourselves." He nodded. He wrote slowly, carefully. Emma did too. "Some letters we write not to send, but to heal," she wrote at the top of her page. As the sun set, Leo handed her a paper. It said, "Dear Emma, thank you for sitting with me. You made the waiting feel better. Love, Leo." Emma blinked quickly. She smiled. "Can I keep this?" Leo grinned. "It's yours." That night, Emma packed her bag again. The town had given her more than quiet. It gave her truth, a friend, and something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. Before she left a letter on Leo's bench. "Dear Leo, I was lost when I came here. You helped me find something again. Not just peace, but purpose. Keep waiting, keep writing. Your words matter. Love, Emma." The next train came early. She didn't cry when she left. She didn't need to. She had come empty. She left full. We don't always stay in the places that heal us, she thought, but we carry them with us, forever.